All right, welcome back to another episode of the Pursuit of Progress podcast. As always, my name is Adam, and I'm still a one-man show for another week until my co-host Ben gets back from Europe. But I am probably more excited for this episode than any other episode I've done this far, and that's because I've got a close friend, but also a mentor and somebody that I've really looked up to as a role model over the last 18 months or so, who is very accomplished when it comes to YouTube, real estate, and a slew of other things on top of that. But today I'm welcoming my guest, Sam Caudle. Hey, bud.
Thanks for having me, Adam. Excited to be here.
Yeah, man, I've been really just admiring you, like I said, for quite some time and just seeing your business grow very quickly, just scaling not only your business, but also your YouTube channel, and also going into even offering now some courses to teach other people how to succeed with YouTube when it comes to real estate. So
yeah, for sure. It's all been super fun to build. And something you've said made me think of something, our clients call from our YouTube channel, which we'll get into, but they'll often say, it seems like you really know the area. And I always say, well, I'm glad it seems that way. Like, now let's talk and see if you still feel that way. So I feel similarly here.
Yeah. Before we jump into real estate, business, some of that stuff, I'd like to just, talk a little bit about, I was listening to another podcast that you were on from our mutual friends of ours, Will and Eli, who have a Day One $0 podcast, and you were on theirs a while back, probably about 2 years ago, I'm thinking, right when you were kind of getting going. And you're just talking about your prior career with this nonprofit organization, where you're actually also a fellow Coloradan back then. So you were living in Colorado Springs at the time?
Yeah, Colorado Springs. I was there for 10 years.
Okay, I didn't realize it was that long. Okay.
Yeah, so I worked for a big nonprofit. We had 180 offices around the world at the time. Annual budget was, 50 to 60 million a year. And I did all kinds of stuff with them. I started doing like events for them, setting up audio, video stuff, and evolved, kind of asked for every opportunity I could find, and they kept betting on me. They eventually paid for me to finish school. I got a degree in finance. I went on to help them, build a lot of programs and do some trainings around the world. We would host like continental conferences around the world. So, I did that for a few years in a row, where I'd pick, 5 locations and plan and host an entire conference. Make sure everything being built that's being unveiled at the conference is going to make sense. And then we have all these timelines worked out and blah, blah, blah. But then my last few years there, I was doing more internal auditing. So I worked directly under the CFO, and I would go to one of our offices. There was a specific criteria that I developed to choose the places I would go. If your stats doubled, if your budget doubled, if you were under 30, or if there was some kind of accusation, I'm coming to see you.
Okay.
Those were the things where I would kind of build my dozen countries I'd go to each year, and go for that, and just help them understand our office and help us understand them. That's really what I was there to do.
That's awesome. What a cool opportunity just to be able to explore the world on somebody else's dime. That's really cool. What were your favorite places?
I've been to 30 countries, and I've never paid for a trip myself.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. Any favorites out of those 30, or any places that you want to go back and spend a little bit more time?
Yeah, favorite for sure is Georgia, the country of Georgia.
Okay.
And it's like unassuming, but it's quirky and fun. It's the birthplace of wine. So you have good wine everywhere. Every restaurant has like their own like house wine that their grandma makes in clay pots in the backyard of the old property. Cool. But then it has this like Turkish influence, this old Middle East influence, and Russian influence. So it's just a very unique place.
Super cool. I have not.
And it's very cheap to be there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Definitely want to explore that part of the world. I haven't really been to the Middle East at all yet. So
yeah, it's a cool area. I mean, I enjoyed other places in the Middle East too. I went to Azerbaijan and Jordan and Lebanon and Egypt, and all just super unique places. The best food in the world, I think.
Mm-hmm. So you caught that travel bug, and then life happens. You got married. You've got 2 little kiddos. Has your inspiration to continue to travel and just that part of your life, do you think at some point you'll be able to pick back up on that again and start traveling?
Sure. I'm sure at some point. We actually had a third kid 11 weeks ago. So we have a 6-year-old, a 2-year-old, and an 11-week-old, which is annoying that I'm even saying weeks. I'm annoyed with myself that I'm saying that, but you know what I mean. I more imagine traveling someday with my family, being able to be somewhere for a while. And that's even why, looking into the business stuff, like why I'm building it the way I'm building it, is this bigger picture. 7 years from now, which I started talking about this 3 years ago. So that's why I'm counting down 7 years from now that we're able to go to Southern Italy and stay for 6 months.
It's awesome.
Or I mean, I love that part of the world too. Or we're able to go to Croatia and charter a boat and just kind of go up the coast, making little stops, something like that, where we could be somewhere and be settled in, where my daughter can take a pasta class from some local lady that doesn't speak English. Like those kind of things is what I want to be able to do with my family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that whole life by strategy concept is, I think, incredible and something I've started to think a lot more about recently too. And I think another reason why I got into real estate also, just having that kind of flexibility and being able to kind of create your own path. And you've been somebody that's inspired me on that, kind of moving back into real estate now, just with over the last couple of years, just really seeing you perform at a really high level with just building out these different processes, systems, and just, acting with just a one or a two-man show now, but having so much going on, all these different things going on at the same time, and being able to not, cave in to the volume of stuff that's happening on any given day. So just tell me a little bit about like the progression of that with you into real estate. So you got into real estate 5 years ago, 6 years ago? What was
I got into real estate in 2020, middle of 2020. And the big nonprofit I worked for, they had lost a bunch of funding during the pandemic. Everybody's working from home, and they had to let go of like 60% of the staff. So the CFO called me and said, "Hey, Sam, I know that you want to move to Florida eventually. Do you want to go ahead and move? Or would you be willing to stay for a year and kind of help me rebuild the finance department?" And I was like, "Let me think about it." I called him back later that day, and I'm like, "We're going to go." And he's like, "Okay, can you stay a few months and kind of help me like solidify these couple of things?" Like, "Yeah, no problem." So we had a house to sell there. We moved down to the Tampa area because that's where my wife grew up. We had just one kid at the time. She had just turned 2, and we were just wanting to be closer to family, wanting to, be warmer. My wife could not handle the cold in Colorado. Colorado's not that cold, but she couldn't handle it. So moved down here, got into real estate, kind of knowing for a long time that real estate was probably the next thing I would do. Mostly because I wanted to make more money, and there was kind of a fit with my personality and with my ability to, maybe influence those around me, or like that those kind of things kind of fell into line with real estate. So I got my license and started kind of exploring every way to get leads. I was doing open houses. I was running Facebook ads, which are pretty much just like cold calling people still. Mm-hmm. I was sent out direct mail once. It's like, that doesn't work if you send it once. Then I heard these guys talking about a YouTube channel that they've been working on for 3 months, and they were getting leads. And I was like, I like the idea. I think my personality can fit it. And I know I can do it for 3 months. If I can just get to that like mile marker, then I'll know, is it working at all? Am I doing the right things? Is it going to work? Do I believe in it more at that point? And so that's kind of where I started.
So did you have any experience with YouTube before that, as far as like a hobby, like a channel on YouTube for something else? Or because I know you had experience with videography a little bit with your past job, right?
Yeah, definitely had experience with videography. I had traveled a little bit and shot documentaries for that organization as well. So it's the camera was not intimidating. Talking to the camera was very intimidating. I'd never done that. And I didn't even have like a YouTube account. I didn't even like subscribe to channels. I didn't even know how people used YouTube at the time. Mm-hmm. So that was all like, I had no clue.
That's awesome. And I think one of the things you do really, really well over the other people that have channels that I'm kind of following from a distance on is just your ability to tell stories, and just the way that you kind of have a formula for all of your videos, but you just make them where you want to watch a lot longer than maybe other videos, because you're telling these stories and captivating the viewers and the audience, with relating whatever it is you're trying to get across on that video with the story. Did you have that experience from doing these documentaries, I'm assuming, then with your prior job? And
no, not really. From? Some of that came from just my own need for something different. So I would learned initially the whole thing from realtors. Okay, this is how you do it for real estate leads. Okay, great. But that's just kind of this hamster wheel of, say it like this, shoot it like this. I'm like, this is just boring for me. This is hard, not sustainable for me to do in the long run. So what I did is I turned to YouTubers. Okay, let's look at people that actually have huge audiences, that influence people, maybe not to buy houses, but to buy all kinds of things and to do things and to change their lives and to read books or whatever. Let's look at them and see how they influence. And so much of it was story. So whether that's old school on YouTube, like Casey Neistat, or like Ali Abdaal, who's like a very different approach. He's a guy in the UK, used to be a doctor, started YouTubing about productivity and like test taking, and has evolved it into like just general, like whatever he wants to talk about, he's talking about, whether he's reviewing gear or he's talking about, a productivity hack. So I started really to like learn from people like that. I actually bring him up because I bought his course, and that's kind of where I pivoted away from focusing on being a realtor and focused more on being a marketer.
And just so the audience can get a little bit of substance behind kind of where you've taken your YouTube channel since starting it, you're at, give us a couple just like stats, like a little elevator pitch of your channel right now.
Yeah, so probably the stat I'm most proud of is being over 100,000 hours of watch time.
Wow, congrats! That's awesome.
That's the coolest one to me because that's people's time that I've taken, that I've hopefully earned, that I've hopefully added value to. There's other stats. We're over 12,000 subscribers, and the reality is though, all that matters is people call. People call, text, and email, and they say, "Hey, can we talk to Sam? Can Sam help us?" It's like, no, that's the achievement, is that people actually do call and text and email, and they're happy to work with us. And so the first year from YouTube, first year of doing it, I closed 13 deals from it. Second year, I closed 25. And then the third year, I closed 44 just from YouTube. So now in year 4, we've closed about 22 deals. I think it's closer to 30 with what's pending right now for this year so far. And it just keeps climbing. Like it's evolved a bit, and the brand is a little bit more recognizable, and we have the ability to leverage it a bit more, other marketing techniques. And so, yeah, it's a super exciting thing that we built.
It's incredible, man. I didn't realize you're at that point already this year. I did give you a shout out. I saw you got your Icon Award yesterday. So the numbers you just mentioned, I guess you've already received an Icon Award in the prior couple years.
No. So the way that my business is structured, I split it with my partner. For the Icon Award for our specific brokerage, you have to fill up your cap, which is, 16,000 in fees. And then you have to do another 10 deals to max out this other fee. But if you're splitting deals, then you have to do another 20 deals within a 12-month window. So it just depends kind of where your deals fall for the year. It's kind of is different each year.
And let's talk about your partner that you're splitting these deals with. When did you bring him on?
So I first brought on a partner the month that my son was born. So we're about to have a second kid, and that was December of the first year of the YouTube channel. So it's November. I'm trying to bring him on and get him up to speed. He was a brand new agent, moved from Colorado to Florida, and in the midst of the conversation, they're wanting to move. I'm like, "Hey, Ben, I think you'd be a good realtor." And he's like, "What are you talking about? I've never considered that." It's like, I don't know. You're pretty good with people. You're calm, and in this conversation, I can just tell like you could navigate it, and like you don't have to like real estate. You don't have to want to be a realtor, build this career. Like, no, I just think you'd be good at it. Like, so he got his license and was moved down a month later, started closing deals with me. And I was really hands-on with all those deals for a long time. So Ben has since moved on, actually moved back to Colorado and started a YouTube channel. But now another partner I kind of built a relationship with, his name's Aaron. And the way I describe it to our clients often is the whole business is a funnel. Like at the very top is like come up with a video idea. At the very bottom is like ask for a review from a client.
Mm-hmm.
I handle the top half of the funnel. So I get them on a call, build a relationship with them, explain the process, hand them over to Aaron. So Aaron, shows them houses, writes offers, negotiates deals, and kind of helps with that whole process. And he enjoys that process too.
I'm just, thinking about just the two of you guys, how you're able to still handle the volume you just mentioned with, 30 deals over the first, half of the year. As a newer agent myself, just even when I've had like 3 or 4 things going on at the same time, that's felt overwhelming to me. And I guess going back to the systems, processes, all that stuff, I'm sure that's part of it, but also just like still understanding like how you're able to just handle that with just the two of you guys. That seems
Sure.
daunting.
I mean, so much of it is clarity on the front end. When your clients understand the process, understand the expectation about what you'll do and the expectation about what they should do, then it's quite a bit easier. Whenever a realtor is like everything for their clients is when it becomes too much and it actually breaks the system. They want you to be everything all of a sudden because you've shown that you're willing to, and then they push it too far. And what really happens is their expectations are bound to be like shattered. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're going to be disappointed if you've like given them too much because you can't be everything to them.
Mm-hmm.
So like clearly staying in our role, but then also having like really dialed in systems. We have a really great transaction coordinator. I've never not used a transaction coordinator. We our system of referrals for like contractors and inspectors is all very dialed in, and even our lender and our insurance partner, like everybody's very dialed in. And we were on the group call yesterday, and people were talking about having a lender partner that like really advocates for you.
Mm-hmm.
My lender would never like let my deal go to somebody else. They sometimes keep in touch more with our clients than we do. Then they'll tell us like, hey, Ryan said he's ready to start looking, just to make sure that we know.
That's
So
awesome.
building those kind of relationships that are mutually beneficial are super important to scale. But then you also reach a level where last week we had 13 deals under contract. I think we've had 3 closed this week. So we're probably down to 10. When you reach a certain point and like you notice holes in the system, or you notice like, oh, we can't promise to do that anymore because at scale it doesn't work. So some of it is just being open to like seeing what breaks, because things breaking and making mistakes is not a big deal, but noticing it, adjusting for it, building a system around it, that's the goal. And there's people that help us with that too.
I've noticed with my prior entrepreneur background, just in order to always be kind of one step ahead, you have to have that viewpoint of where do you expect yourself to be in 6 months, 2 years, and also that BHAG, that big hairy audacious goal, like where you want to be in like 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, where do you
Yeah.
see your company in a year from now?
So we're focusing a lot more on agents now, and what that means within our brokerage is just there's opportunity to bring agents within our community, train them, equip them, and make sure they succeed, and receiving some kind of compensation for that.
Mm-hmm.
That's really where I'm focusing on now, because I can, because the other thing works really well. That it doesn't take very long to make a video or to publish it or to have a couple Zoom calls with new buyers each week. So that part of it, the living in Tampa part of it, takes me 12 hours a week, maybe on a busy week, including a couple like in-person appointments. So I have the leverage right now to build the next thing, and that really is agents. So how do we identify agents that want a big opportunity, and that also, number 2, want to do the work required to achieve the opportunity? So then
Mm-hmm.
creating content and funnels and ads and webinars and events and all that to find these people within our market and outside of our market.
I feel like that's the perfect fit for you, just with your nature, just your tone of how you speak to people, just you're very non-threatening, you're very like calm and collected. I just see you as somebody that really fits that role well, where I think a lot of agents that are, just kind of on the fence or unsure what direction they need to go, I just see you as somebody that would be very, kind of inspiring to them to talk to. And
I
not
do actually want to help too.
100% you do. That's one of your biggest qualities, I think, is you're authentic with actually wanting to bring the people around you up with you.
Yeah. And like I learned from people that like changed my life. Like hearing Will and Eli on that podcast. But Joshua Smith, even having the podcast, to have that kind of platform, to have that kind of exposure to agents, like I've personally been able to thank him for that. I've been on his podcast and been able to like say, thank you for having these guys on. This literally changed my life. So like how much more would I want to do that for others?
That's awesome. So right now you've already got, like, I think you said 8 or 10 people that you've helped bring on to the team, and going back to that kind of year from now, I mean, where do you see that in a year? Is it 100 people? Is it 1,000? I mean, what is your big
so
goal?
instead of like looking at it as a year right now, I'm looking at it as 100. Like, how do I get to 100 agents?
Okay.
Now, if that takes 6 months or if that takes 3 years, and I'm just, doing the things that I know will work, and then, doing some kind of analysis on, are they actually working?
Mm-hmm.
Are they actually converting, and are they actually bringing in the people that are a good fit for the community? Because it's okay if people aren't a good fit. So it's more on my mind, like the road to 100 agents. And so that's what I'm thinking about content, when I'm thinking about conversations I'm having, when I'm, blocking off time on my calendar. Like, that's what I'm working on, is how do we get there? A lot of it is literally just sharing what I've learned in real estate. How we make videos, how we use our CRM, how I think about the NAR settlement, whatever it is. It's like, no, like literally just sharing my take on all of these things within the business is kind of how we do that.
And then YouTube's also provided you some other kind of unique, cool experiences. One of them being on a TV show recently. Was it House Hunters? What was the show?
Yeah, HGTV's House Hunters. We shot an episode. I don't know if I'm allowed to say anything else about it yet.
Really?
I kind of got in trouble for how much I was posting on my Instagram stories while we were shooting it.
So has it come out yet, the episode?
No, it comes out in a couple months. They're like, can we tag you when it comes out? I'm like, yeah, sure. Yeah, unique opportunity. Actually, my clients signed up for it. So anybody buying a house or any agent that wants to be on, you can sign up for it. They'll audition you on a Zoom call and put together a little demo tape for the producers, and then it goes from there.
Well, I'm excited to check it out.
Yeah, the YouTube channel is so unscripted. It's so like, I let myself kind of fumble around my words. I talk about myself and my family and my opinion, and TV's not like that.
Were you able to still tell a story, or was the producer of the show kind of helping lead you more into that?
They want the story, and it was even able to bring in other stuff about my other clients, that move here, and like I'm used to helping people like solve this problem, but yeah, it's more about the clients than it is about me. So I was there to support them.
So one last question on YouTube, something more of I guess I'm asking this really for myself more than for the audience, but just one challenge that I have is just always falling back on this telling a story, and not having it feel scripted, not having it be something that I'm putting all this effort into bullet points. And when I'm presenting this story on camera, it's coming off as, scripted and just not being authentic and just natural.
Yeah.
I know you've shared before with me just like your notes for when you go out into the field and film a video, and it's like on a napkin, it's like 3 bullet points, couple words for each. It's very, very minimal. Outside of that bullet point that you have on the napkin, I mean, are you still, though, really kind of going through the entire story ahead of time before filming, or is it really just, I'm just having a hard time with that part of putting that story.
So I think when somebody's in that scenario, I would recommend like just simplifying the story. The story probably needs less characters, needs less actions, and it just needs less like decisions being made in it. So the story could even be about a few people. The example I love to give is like, I had this video that kind of blew up, and it was like, when I say blew up, like I don't know how many views it has, but YouTube was like pushing it to a new audience. So I got this notification on YouTube Studio, like this video is going to have a lower click-through rate all of a sudden because we're pushing it to a broader audience because it's getting so many views. Okay, cool. The premise of the video was these are the best areas to move in Tampa. Super like subjective title. But then the premise of the video was we've helped a ton of clients move here from across the country, and these are the top 8 areas they're choosing, and let me tell you why. And then like that's kind of the hook of the video. So I'm just saying, okay, people are choosing the Brandon area because of the commute distance to downtown. It's about our clients kind of in general, but it's still like a story of we are helping people move here. This is where they're choosing. I'm not saying these are the best areas for everybody. I'm saying these are the best areas for our clients. So I think when there's a more general story like that, it can be a little bit easier than like something super specific where you stick to like your points. Like with that kind of a story, you don't really have points.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the best pieces of advice you've given me recently was looking at my channel and just the content that I'm preparing to put out there, and also just kind of the next 10 videos looking ahead, just really creating this library of content and looking at it not as I want this individual video to do really, really well and get as many views as possible, but just looking at every video as, right, how's this going to fit into my library of content and add as much value as possible. So when somebody comes to the channel, they're not just coming for that one video. They're, looking at this selection of different content, different topics that might all serve them in different ways.
Right. I think that was brilliant. The example I've given about that recently is it's like a difference between, the title of a book and the title of a newspaper article. Like, they're very different approaches. One, you're just trying to get somebody to pick up the newspaper and like start reading it. The book, you're trying to like create something that people will buy, invest their money in, keep on their shelf, return to, share with someone else. Like the mindset behind it is so different. So what I'm doing when I'm creating content is, I want the book on the shelf for people. I want somebody to be able to come back to my video about Tarpon Springs 2 years from now and for it to mostly still make sense.
I love with YouTube how, this Tarpon Springs video as an example, you made it 2 years ago and there's still people today. It's evergreen. It's still out there. People are still getting value, still getting potentially new leads today from
absolutely
something that you put a few hours of work into 2 years ago. I just can't think of very many other types of marketing specifically that have that kind of ROI on it, which is
right. Awesome. And YouTube got really into shorts for a while, so I tried it. I did the same kind of like value add, like cost of living, pros and cons, all this kind of stuff in short format. And they were really good. They were polished. They delivered a lot of content. And they would spike. I'd get 5,000 views the first day, and then 0 the next week. 0, 0, 0. Where these other videos that are not as good, not as polished, longer, they still get 100 views a week. They've been up there for 4 years now. Like, it's a very different kind of mindset whenever you go for like the lasting value add as opposed to the views right now.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I've really looked up to Will and Eli, who we've mentioned a couple times on the podcast about, and then also now I'm starting to look up to you also about, is just this concept of to really be wealthy and have this, life by strategy, creating as many revenue streams as possible. And so you're, kicking butt with your just transaction volume with real estate. And now you're moving into, building this team of other agents and empowering them to grow their businesses. And then now you've also got your first course that you've created. Is it officially out and available for people, or is it at the final stages?
It is. It's available. Real estate YouTuber. And, part of that is a value add for the people that join the community as well. Mm-hmm. So they get that for really cheap when they join through me. I took 3 years before I even considered making a course, because I want to have a very concise way to teach things. So it's chocked full of useful information, even just like little outlines that I've built of the way I think through things. And that's like super fun for me. Even on like calls like this, I'll often be like, okay, we're going to talk about this and then this and then this. I just think like that in terms of like outlines. And so that's how I built the course. That's how I make the videos. That's how I run meetings, whatever it is. It's just kind of how it goes.
Yeah. The thing I've been thinking about recently is just like, what other industries, what other, careers could something like this apply to? I know that, lending, there's people out there that have, channels.
Solar sales. If
solar sales,
somebody could dominate solar referrals with YouTube.
And that's what I was just about to say is like, I feel like the framework is there and relevant for a lot of different types of products or services. And with real estate specifically, it really hasn't been around that long, specific to how you're doing it, how Will and Eli and some of the other people that we're connected with, this unique style of video where you're not going for the most views possible. You're very specific on your targeting and who you're trying to reach as your audience. I just got to think that there's other industries that haven't even been explored yet that this would be a home run for also. The reason I bring that up is I just wonder if your course could ever eventually apply to other industries outside of real estate.
I think it definitely could. And I think typically it's going, the technique's going to be the most profitable if it's a really high ticket sale. So that's where like real estate's really unique. You can close 10 deals a year. You can close 12 deals a year. You're in the top 20% of realtors in the country, and you're making a living. You know what I mean? If you're selling cars, if you're selling trucks, I bought a new truck recently, and I was like, "How much money did you make on this?" Just asking her all this stuff about it, and she's like, $500. I was like,
Wow.
"You got to sell a lot of these to make a living." And the way that it works is like if you sell a bunch of these, that where you make 500, then you make more when she sells a Corvette or something. It's like it does this like whole thing like that. But yeah, real estate is unique in that way that, it's not odd to make 10, 20 grand on a deal.
I'm sure you've seen this too. I saw some article recently that got me a little nervous talking about it with the DJI, the drone so for our audience that isn't familiar with our YouTube channels, a big part of it is providing really high quality B-roll, which a lot of this is aerial drone footage to show specific areas that we're talking about in the videos. And I just saw some articles recently about how there might be some new restrictions with drones and some of that might go away. Do you feel like there's any legitimacy to that or any concern?
I think it'd be awesome if it banned them for a little while. It would force us to find another way. We've also heard from like viewers that they prefer street level footage as opposed to aerial footage. Yeah, aerial footage is interesting, but it doesn't really give them context of what it's going to feel like when they're there. So I think it would just force us to find another way. So I didn't start mine with a drone. I got that later. And yeah, the drone is helpful context for a lot of things. But I also just think a new constraint would just force us to develop the skills around the whole thing a bit more. Just like this NAR settlement, like, that buyer's agents could maybe not be, as publicly compensated. It just forces us to figure out how to do it. It forces the cream to rise to the top at every pivot. And it's drones right now, but who knows? It might just be like the way, restrictions around marketing for realtors might change, or all these things are going to come and go.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just going to be, it's going to be drones now, but it's going to be something else 2 years from now and something else 2 years later. And it's always going to be, we're always going to have these speed bumps, and the people that can navigate them best, I think, really succeed.
Yep. That's a good way to put it. I agree with that.
And I think there's also just other ways to show the stuff. Yeah, the drone is probably the most fun way to do it. It's if you can sit in one place and get a bunch of shots of different things, but we'd figure it out.
So I know a lot of our audience has, a similar family life to my co-host Ben, where they have, single dad, or my co-host Ben's a single dad with 2 kids. So I know a lot of our audience are either similar to him or just, families, people that have a lot of, stuff going on outside of their career. And I look at you as somebody like that. That's now, got 3 kids, one that's very young, wife, successful business. Now you're even adding on more to your plate with these other revenue streams, with attracting agents and this course. Like, how are you able just to handle all of these different pieces? Is it just being incredibly organized with your calendar? Is it like, what's a tip or two that maybe you can share with people that are also feeling overwhelmed with what they have going on in their personal and private lives, personal and professional lives?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to just say that I'm really good at everything, but it's just not true. I think people are often scared to share. Now,
Elaborate.
People think like hire and delegate. I think like just share. Like, I give away half of every deal. Yeah, we still make good money, but it empowers Aaron to really take it and run with it. And then if he makes a mistake, he feels so bad. We work through it. Like, but if I just viewed him as like an agent I'm just referring deals to, there just wouldn't be that kind of mutual desire to get better. Like, no, Aaron, let's build this thing together. Okay, let's do it. I'm like, you take this thing off my plate so I can focus on this, and we'll build all of it together. And like actually just sharing the whole thing, distributing not just the work, but the mental responsibility, all those kind of things. That's made such a difference for me. Actually, my partner and his wife were over. They're a little younger. They don't have kids. They were over for dinner a couple weeks ago, and it was like we're like trying to do the dishes. Two of the 3 kids are crying. The other one's just like talking your ear off, and it's like he's like, I call you at this time, like most days, and I can hear that you're doing dishes. And he's like, how do you even talk? How do you even think clearly? And I'm like, brother, this is just normal around here. Like you adjust to whatever's going on, but obviously there's systems for things too. I don't want to discredit that, but I think sharing, is the biggest thing I would recommend to people. Don't hold on to the money so tight. Don't hold on to the control so tight. Find people that you can trust and like actually trust them and see what happens.
One thing I've kind of been toying around with that I'm having a hard time figuring out is, because I totally agree with you. I think you need to really, just bring the people that you trust up with you and make them just as much of a part of the business as yourself. Like me with mine, it's, Adam sells Denver. It's focused on me, which is, I think, a mistake that I made early on with branding, where I'm trying to figure out a way to, if I do find, that person that I can kind of, identify as a good match and kind of build up something together with them, creating more of a business and a branding that isn't focused on a name or a person as much as an idea or you know what I mean? So for you, you're not really branded as Sam Caudle. You're really just branded as living in Tampa. Is that how you outward facing to your clients and any sort of ads you're doing?
Yeah, but it's still me. Like I am the brand. And even like between my partner and I, like, no, that makes sense. Like I'm the one in the videos. I'm the one with, more life experience and more, ability to navigate these difficult situations and more real estate experience. And like, no, it's fine. But like just acknowledging that the brand living in Tampa, yeah, it's great. It doesn't have my name in it, but it still kind of does, because if it was someone else, people would not follow it the same way. Then maybe they'd follow it more, but they wouldn't be following me. They'd be following a bigger thing or a different kind of thing that's more of just a brand living in Tampa. So even though it's called living in Tampa, I don't know if you need to change yours.
Because I feel like building a personal brand is like so important nowadays. So I want to be focused on that. Yet I worry that how can you build a personal brand while at the same time building a brand that you can get people that are invested in actually building it with you and not feeling like they're shortchanged, or like a person that maybe after a few years is going to go their own way and try and build their own brand.
Yeah. And that happened with my first partner. He wanted to start his own YouTube channel. And I was like, hey, maybe you should consider going somewhere else if you're going to do that. And that's kind of how it panned out. No hard feelings, but my next relationship around the business was like with someone who wasn't interested in doing that. And maybe he will be someday, and we'll navigate that. But, being able to compartmentalize some of our responsibilities and, have more roles and responsibilities actually makes it feel more like a business too.
That's good advice. Yeah, that's been on my mind a lot recently, just trying to figure out how to, make the changes or the steps today to not be in a position a couple years from now where it's a lot bigger issue and a lot more painful to change at that point.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we think we know what's going to happen or like how it's going to go, and we just don't. You don't have the information yet. You just got to trust yourself that you'll be able to navigate it, that you're building the skills and expertise to navigate that situation ahead of you, even if you don't know exactly how it's going to be.
That's good advice. So let's just kind of, we'll wrap it up here. I know you got a lot of other stuff going on today. You guys, I want to just share with you this YouTube course. If you're interested, Sam, tell us a little bit about how they could find that.
Yeah, real estate YouTuber, REYouTuber.com. Also, I talk about it on Instagram all the time, on the Sam Caudle on Instagram. But, we host webinars for that. We host local events for that, just to kind of so people can experience kind of what value is in there. I don't want to just sell courses. I want to actually help people build a lead source for their real estate business that could change their lives. Like YouTube has changed my life in so many ways. Number one, it makes money. Like people actually call and we close deals. Number two, it's fun to do. Number three, I get to be myself. Like it's on my own terms. It genuinely is on my own terms. I tell the stories I want to tell. I talk about the areas I want to talk about. We just got a listing from the channel, and we don't get many listings. We mostly get buyers. But this guy texted, it's like, hey, I'm thinking about selling my house in this neighborhood. And like, it was 2 hours after we published a video about that neighborhood. So I know that's why we went over to meet with him, and he's like, it was so easy to close. Because he likes us. He knows me. He likes me. He trusts me. I'm wearing a t-shirt. I take my shoes off at the door. Like, it's a very casual setting. We don't even look at the house for like 45 minutes. We just sit down and talk. And so I just know that people come in, they know you, they like you, they trust you if you consistently build this library of content. And then it just changes the way you approach the business, the way you approach the growth of it, the life around it, like all those kind of things. Like, that's what I want for people.
Yeah, I love with sales how, myself being one of these people that gets nervous about certain aspects of the sales process and coming off salesy, just those challenges from a sales perspective. What I love about YouTube is you pre-position yourself before even physically shaking the person's hand and meeting them face to face. You've already established so much of their expectation of who you're going to be and what you're going to be like, that like, and trust aspect.
Yeah, they know even like what to say when they call. I hopped on a Zoom call recently. Actually, this client's in town for the next 3 months. But on the Zoom call, as soon as we started, he said, "Hey, brother." I was like, I can just tell this is going to be easy.
That's cool.
And I said that. I even said that to him. I'm like, Vince, I love that you started that way. It shows me that you really watch the videos, that you really, reached out to us for that reason.
Mm-hmm. Love that. Cool, man. Well, again, Sam, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you making the effort to help me out, and also just to share some of this with our audience and inspire some people on just the power of some of this these forms of marketing like YouTube that a lot of people don't even consider and think about in our real estate industry, and just seeing firsthand how much it's changed your life, some of our other, people that we're connected with. Just pretty inspiring, and definitely makes me optimistic about just, what to expect in the years to come. So
yeah, I think just build the life you want. Like, that's all it is. It's just build the life you want, that you don't want to escape from, that you like doing. Yeah.
Great,
excited for you. I'm excited to see you keep building. I'm excited to see this podcast grow. Like, awesome stuff going on, Adam.
Thanks. Well, you guys, really appreciate you listening today. And please don't forget, if you guys have any friends, any connections that potentially would get some value from this, which I'm sure they would, make sure you share the show with a friend. We release new episodes every single Friday. So looking forward to an all new episode next Friday on the Pursuit of Progress podcast. Thanks again, Sam. We'll talk to you later.